Rev up your engines!
Well, it's not just the United States that's having problems with electric vehicles. They're doing the same thing in Canada. Here's an email from Jeremy McGrath in Ontario, and he says, I live in Canada. Ford is closing productions of EVs in Ontario, and it likely means layoffs. Why are governments getting on board with these companies? Japanese hybrid vehicles are the way of the future. I live in the province of Newfoundland. Toyota hybrids are prominent here in Newfoundland. Electric cars don't work so good when it's cold outside. Your government obviously gave money to Ford to build electric vehicles there in Oakville, and now they're saying, well, maybe in the future, right? You're in a bigger pickle than us in the United States because it's colder in Canada than it is in most of the United States, right? Electric vehicles in cold weather do not go together. Plus, Canada is just as wide as the United States. It's a wide open country. You need stuff that can drive long distances, not stupid electric cars that run out of power. Then there's no infrastructure for them. You're stuck in the middle of nowhere with no electricity, right? It only makes sense that a hybrid where, hey, if you want a city car and you get a plug-in hybrid, you can go 50 miles on electricity, keep plugging it in, go ahead, right? But then if you want to travel from Toronto to Vancouver, you can just drive because the gasoline engine will get you hundreds and hundreds of miles, and you can just fill it up with gas again. Not have to worry about plugging the stupid thing in. It only makes sense. Well, Tesla's continuing to lower the price of the Model Y and the Model 3 because nobody's buying them. So they keep cutting the price down. And of course, what's that doing? That's knocking the resale value even further down. As far as I'm concerned, this is the beginning of people realizing the facade of Tesla's being a good car company, right? I mean, look at Hertz. They bought 100,000 Teslas. They're getting rid of every single one of them. Why? Because they cost too much money to make. They break down quite often, and people didn't want them. Most people went to rent a car. They saw an electric car. I don't want to touch that thing. I'm on vacation. Do I have to worry about where to charge this stupid thing up? You know, the people that work at car rental places, they aren't the sharpest tool in the box, right? So they don't know how to maintain them. They're not taking care of them. And they found out they're too expensive. There's companies in Europe that had bought a bunch of Teslas for their car services, like bringing people to the airport and back, because some places, I guess in the Netherlands, they're only allowing electric vehicles to come to the airport to pick it up. But some of these companies said, we're getting rid of all our Teslas, they're crap, and they're replacing them with other electric cars because the Teslas didn't hold up. They broke, and they cost a fortune to fix. So, looks like the beginning of the end of Tesla starting up, you know? He talked about he was going to make that cheap, under $25,000 car. Of course, they can't do it. They can barely make these expensive ones work. And they make them cheaper and cheaper. Guess what? It's something the guy probably isn't able to do, right? He doesn't have the wherewithal to build a cheap car that's going to hold up because his expensive ones aren't. Imagine how much worse they'd be if you made them that cheap. Here's what shows you what crooks dealers are, especially high-end ones like Lexus. Listen to this. It's an email from one of you viewers. He says, I bought a 2011 Lexus RX 450 from a private owner. Last month it had a problem. POA3AF. So I took it to the Lexus dealer and they said that I need an inverter converter part, and it's going to cost me $10,000. That's more than I paid for the car. So I did a little research and found out that Toyota part G9280 48112 will work. I had it shipped on my mechanic. He called Lexus and they said, you can't put that part on the car. It's not compatible with your car. So I took it to a Toyota dealer. They said it would be compatible and installed it. They wanted $10,000 at the Lexus dealer. The guy bought the part for $1,400. Had a Toyota dealer put it on, and away it goes, right? It shows that basically they're lying at him at the Lexus dealer because, of course, they want as much money as possible from any luxury car manufacturer. That's just how they go, right? Well, but they lied to him and said this part isn't compatible, and then the Toyota dealer put it on for him, right? I mean, at least the Toyota dealer was honest, and they said, yeah, that's the right part for your car, and they put it on, and away he went. Yeah, it just shows you can't even trust the dealers, especially a high-end dealer like Lexus. They're out to screw you over 10 ways to Sunday. Oh, you have a luxury Lexus car, so only we can work on it, and no, that's the wrong part, and it was the right part. You know, you can't even trust those clowns, and I would stay away from them unless you're going to buy a brand new one, right? I mean, this thing had 118,000 100,000 miles on when he bought it. Guy bought it new, probably didn't have any problems at all. Those are cars you buy new and not used with high mileage. Well, big oil is scaling up to try to do carbon capture to be carbon neutral by 2050, right? You know what I say to that? That'll be the next big scam. Carbon capture. They already have with that carbon credits. If you've watched me or done any research about how, well, they didn't cut the trees down in the rainforest in South America, so you can give carbon credits to the big polluters that make polluting stuff, right? I mean, and this carbon capture thing, where they capture the CO2, that's going to be the next big boondoggle. You know, well, we'll store it in the ground, then it'll leak out, of course, right? And it's so much that you would have to store, it would make your head spin. And of course, they do untested things, like they're doing one down south in Bayou Bend, and they claim, as it says here, they have the capacity to store more than 1 billion metric tons in underground geological structures. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen. It's going to leak out of those things. Are they going to fracture, cause earthquakes, blow water out of the ground from all this extra pressure that they're shoving the stuff in? Nobody knows what's actually going to. And then to top it all off, they got to capture the CO2 to begin with. It's not that easy to capture the stuff, right? It'll be the next big boondoggle. Electric cars, now it'll be the boondoggle of carbon capture. Well, they'll say they're doing one thing, and nobody can really prove one way or the other whether it's actually working or not. And they're doing one in Vicksburg. Okay, and here's what they say. The mill at Vicksburg was chosen to receive $88 million of taxpayer funding. If successful, it'll capture 220,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually, the equivalent of 27,000 gas-powered cars. Well, there's a spit in the bucket. There's 278 million cars registered in the United States presently. You're taking the pollution that 27,000 of them put on, you're just spitting in the bucket. You're not changing anything. And that's the problem with all this stuff. It's just another facade to get government funding for things that probably won't do much at all. And of course, they're all scrambling for the $12 billion in funding for this stuff that the supposed Inflation Reduction Act is supposed to do, right? I mean, more government boondoggles. And of course, the money's unbelievable. This one guy in an article explained it can cost hundreds of millions of dollars to retrofit one plant that's polluting a bunch, right? Boggles the mind. Right? The money they're going to spend on this stuff. It just boggles the mind. Well, if you didn't know it, there's one state in the United States where you can't pump your own gas, and I just drove through it, New Jersey. So I made sure I had enough gas to make it through New Jersey when I was driving from Tennessee to Rhode Island, so I didn't have to stop. You know, I don't trust people pumping gas in my own car. Well, it looks like Jersey isn't going to change it anytime soon, because, of course, we all know Jersey's an extremely corrupt state. And one of the reasons that they were the only ones left is because they started it for corruption. They didn't want competition on gas prices. They wanted to keep it as high as they could. And these guys that were going to have discount change where you pump your own gas, they made it illegal for them to go. No surprise. Corruption in New Jersey. Ooh, who didn't see that one coming? Now, it's the only state in the nation that forces people to have someone pump the gas in their car, right? You'd think they joined the 21st century, but I guess they're stuck in the 1900s when the mafioso was running everything, right? Maybe they still are, I don't know, but it's kind of ridiculous that they don't let people to pump their own gas, right? And the funny thing is, now the politicians, of course, get involved because they're all a bunch of weenie butts. Whatever way the wind blows, they bend. And it turns out, according to a research article, 60% of the people in New Jersey want to keep it as you can't pump your own gas. So the politicians like, red hot subject, we might not get elected if we say, let's have free pump for everybody. They're all worried about their own shadows, right? So New Jersey has the honor of being quite a few things, but they are the only one that you can't pump your own gas in. I mean, just seems bizarre to me. Yet another Boeing plane has pieces coming off. This time it's the engine cowling. And again, it was a plane around Houston. It was going from Houston, flying out, and had to land in Denver too early because the cowling was falling off the motor. There it is with a piece missing there, too. It's just crazy. This time it was a Southwest, but it was still a Boeing 737-800. Makes you wonder about Boeing, you know? Between Boeing itself and the upkeep maintenance at places like Southwest, it really makes me think twice before I climb in one of those airplanes anytime soon. Seems every day something's going on with one of them. Now, I took off from Denver, headed to Houston, had to turn around and come back 33 minutes later. because the engine cowling came loose and damaged the flaps on the right side of the airplane. I mean, look at that. Some kind of investigation into Boeing. It seems to me that they got too cozy with the politicians in getting legislation made so they buy all these American planes and they spend less time actually building them correctly. I've met people who used to be engineers at Boeing and they quit because they said, hey, the pressure to make them too fast and too cheap was too much for them and they went and got another job. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.